Then he went to his hometown. And on the Sabbath, he entered the synagogue and taught. And many who heard him and his teaching. And they said to one another, "Where did this fellow get all of this? What is the wisdom that is given to him? And what deeds of power are being done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James, Judas, Joseph, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. And Jesus said, "The prophet is not without honor, except in his hometown, and among his own kind, and in his own home." But he could do no deed of power there, except that he laid hands on a few sick people and cured them. And he was amazed at their unbelief. Well, then the disciples gathered around him, and they told him all that they had done and taught. And Jesus said, "Come away by yourselves to a deserted place and rest." For many were coming and going, they had no leisure, not even to eat. And so they went away to a deserted place by themselves in a boat. But many saw them and recognized them, and ran on foot from all the towns, so that they arrived there ahead of them. And when Jesus came ashore, he saw a great crowd gathered, and he had compassion for them, for they looked like sheep without a shepherd, and he taught the word to them. But when the hour grew late, his disciples said, "The hour is now very late. This is a deserted place. Send them away, so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy themselves something to eat." But Jesus said, "You give them something to eat." They said, "Are we to go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give to them to eat?" Jesus said, "How many loaves have you? Go and see." And when they found out, they came back and said, 5, and 2 fish. Then Jesus ordered them to have the crowd sit down in groups on the grass. And they sat down in groups of hundreds and 50s. And then Jesus, taking the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, blessed and broke the bread, and gave it to the disciples to set before all the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all. And all ate. And all were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of the broken pieces of the bread and the fish. And those who ate numbered about 5,000. And immediately he made his disciples get into a boat and go to the other side of the sea while he dismissed the crowd. And after saying farewell to them, he went up on a mountain to pray. Well, that evening, the boat was alone on the sea, and Jesus was on the land. But when he saw them straining at the oar against an adverse wind, he came toward them early in the morning, walking on the sea. Now, he intended to pass them by, but when they saw him, they cried out. They thought it was a ghost. They all saw him. They were all terrified. So Jesus said immediately, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." And he got into the boat, and the wind ceased, and it was calm. The disciples were utterly astonished, for as yet they did not understand about the loaves and the fish, and their hearts were hardened. When the Pharisees and some of the scribes came down from Jerusalem, they noticed that some of Jesus' disciples were eating with defiled hands, that is, without washing them. For the Pharisees do not eat anything without thoroughly washing their hands, thus observing the tradition of the elders. And so they said to Jesus, Why do your disciples not observe the tradition of the elders and eat with defiled hands? Jesus said, Isaiah prophesied rightly about this people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching human precepts as doctrine. You abandon the commandment of God and hold to human tradition. Then he called the crowd together and said, listen to me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside that going into a person can defile. But the things that come out are what defile. When he left the crowd and entered the house, his disciples asked him about the parable. And he said, do you still not understand? Do you not see that whatever goes into a person from the outside cannot defile? Because it enters not the heart, but the stomach, and goes out into the sewer. But the things that come out are what defile. For it is within, in the human heart, where evil intentions lie: murder, theft, fornication, adultery, avarice, licentiousness, wickedness, deceit, pride, slander, folly, envy. All these evil things lie within, and they are what defile. Well, then he set out and went into the region of Tyre. And he entered a house and did not want anyone to know it, but he could not escape notice. A woman whose daughter had an unclean spirit heard about it, and came and fell down at his feet. Now, she was a Gentile of Syro-Phoenician origin, and she begged Jesus to cast the demon out of her daughter. But Jesus said, let the children be served first. It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. But the woman said, yes, but sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. And Jesus said, for saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. And she went home and found the child lying in bed, and the demon was gone. And then he departed Tyre, and went by way of Sidon toward the Sea of Galilee, and into the region of the Decapolis. And they brought to him a deaf man who had a speech impediment, that he might lay his hand on him. So Jesus took him aside in private, away from the crowd. He put his fingers in his ears, he spat and touched his tongue, and then he looked up at heaven and sighed and said, Ephphatha, be open. And immediately his ears were opened, and his tongue was released, and he spoke plainly. And Jesus ordered them to say nothing to anyone. But the more he ordered it, the more zealously they proclaimed it. They were astounded beyond measure, saying, he does all things well. He makes even the deaf to hear